To make the lemon curd, you're going to need the zest and the juice of 2 lemons. The zest is the outside yellow part of the lemon, and obviously the juice is inside it. I'm just using a microplane, so it's a fine, flat grater, and it's really good for getting the zest off the outside of a lemon. So you're just trying to take the outside bit off. You're not trying to go down to the white part, the pith, because that will make it bitter. And the reason why we're adding the zest is to give it more flavour to our lemon curd and make it so that it's nice and tangy and zingy. So you just need to lightly go round. If you've not got a microplane, just a normal grater, but trying to get the finest part on it, where you can get all of the lemon zest out. You could potentially, you could use oranges if you wanted to make an orange curd instead, and you could do that in the same way. So you'd need 1 or 2 small oranges, not doing too big. So once you've gone round, that is then your zest taken off your lemon. To juice it, what we're going to do is just give it a bit of a roll. You always need to take the zest off first, because obviously it's much more difficult when there's not the structure there to take the zest off. Cut it in half. If you've got a reamer like this, you can use one of them. You might have a lemon juicer where you can push it down and squeeze it onto it, or it might just be that case of you're actually using a spoon to do it. So you're just going to squeeze your lemon juice into your bowl. You're going to need to take out any pips that you get in there, because obviously you don't want those bits in, and then just give it a squeeze to get those last bits of juice out of each of your lemons. So you need to do that with both your lemons. The next step that you need to do is make your corn flour paste. So I've just got 25 grams of corn flour in here, and I've measured my 125 millilitres of water. I'm then going to pour just a small amount of the water into it and then stir it to make a paste with my corn flour. You always need to make sure that when you are using corn flour and you're adding it to a hot liquid, that it needs to be made into a paste first. So you're just making sure that it's all captured together. You also will need to make sure before you actually add it, you give it a stir again, because it does go solid. It's a non-Newtonian liquid, so it creates a solid mass. Okay, then what you're going to do is you are going to put your 25 grams of sugar into the pan. You're going to add the remainder of your water, your lemon juice, and your lemon zest. And that is then going to go onto the heat to get it to boiling point, and then at which point we'll add the corn flour to it. To separate an egg, you need to make sure that you've got 2 bowls or cups or something to put them into, and you're just going to get the back of a knife and tap a small crack into the egg. You're going to use your thumbs to then go into the crack, and then just using your knuckles to gently kind of lever it apart. So you're just gently opening it up. Now tip it so that you are catching the yolk into the bottom part of the egg, and then you can just transfer the egg between the 2 shells. If you're struggling a bit with that, you can quite easily just pour it through your fingers so that you've just got the egg white in there, and then you put the egg yolk into the separate dish. If you are going to be using the egg white for something like meringues, you do need to make sure that it is kept separate and that there is no egg yolk that goes into it. If you crack the egg as you are putting it or separating it, you will need to discard that egg, which is why we do it into separate bowls. So once you've separated one egg, put the egg yolk into the bowl that you're going to be using, and then use the empty bowl to get your next egg white, because if you split a yolk into a number of egg whites, then that will mean that you have to get rid of them all, because they will not whisk up with the fat in there from the egg yolk. Now that we've got all of our ingredients ready to make our curd, we are just going to heat our water, our sugar, our lemon juice and our lemon zest into the pan until it is bubbling. At that point, we're then going to add our corn flour paste, which we'll just stir beforehand. We're then going to take it off the heat and beat in some butter, which will add a richness and silky, satiny, smooth finish to it. And then we will beat in our egg yolks. So just bringing our liquid up to the boil. And then as soon as it's bubbling, give your corn flour paste a stir, because otherwise you will end up with corn flour stuck on the bottom. Get your spoon and then constantly stirring your liquid when the corn flour is added, otherwise you will end up with lumps in your gel. Okay, so gelatinization has taken place because we're at boiling point, so it's reached boiling point again very quickly, and it has gelatinized. So we've now got a gel there because of the starch in the corn flour. What we now need to do is we are going to add in our butter, and we're just going to stir that in. So I've just turned off the heat and we're just stirring in our butter. So as I said, this will give it a smooth, satiny smoothness, and it'll also give it a richer flavour. Okay, if you wanted to make it dairy free, you could always use some coconut oil. So you can see that that has just melted in and it has changed the colour slightly. Okay. Giving it a richer colour. Once all of the butter has melted, you're going to add in your 2 egg yolks. So you're going to add in your egg yolks and you're going to stir it continually at the same time. We don't want them to separate, so we don't want them to split, because we will end up with scrambled eggs. So we don't want the heat too high, but we will be putting some heat on there to get that heat through them. So we're beating them in, and just to get our eggs to coagulate, you're not wanting to cook them too long, but you are wanting it so that you get a nice, smooth lemon curd. For the purpose of lemon meringue pie, we're just using the egg yolks. I think if you were making a lemon curd for spreading, you might want to add the whole egg. You might want a bit of white as well. That will just make it a bit thinner. So you can see that we have now got a thick lemon curd. Once that's done, you want to remove it from the heat and put it into a bowl or into a sterilised jar. So if you're wanting to keep it, you'll need to sterilise a jar so that it will keep for a good few weeks. And that is your finished lemon curd. To make your meringue, you need to make sure that you've got a clean, grease-free bowl. So wash it before you use it with soap and hot water. If you're still not quite sure, maybe just get a bit of lemon juice on a piece of kitchen roll and just wipe your bowl out so that you can make sure that there's no grease or anything that's going to prevent your meringues or egg whites from whisking up. So I've got my 2 egg whites in there, and then if you've got a balloon whisk, use a balloon whisk. If you've got an electric whisk, I would go with the electric whisk first. I'm just going to show you how you might do it with a balloon whisk. Okay, so I have just tapped it to the side, and you can see with the egg white, because it's a protein, what it's actually doing when we're whisking it, we're adding air, okay, and the protein is made up of springy coils. So what we're doing is we're stretching those springs out and trapping the egg white in there. So at the moment, if I stopped, that would go back to looking as it was when it came from the egg. But we need to keep whisking it until it reaches stiff peaks, okay? So when you bring out your whisk, it should stand in a stiff peak. This might take a couple of minutes. Once you've whisked it for a couple of minutes, you should be able to lift it up so you can see that it's actually forming a peak there and it's not drooping over. Then what we're going to do is we have 60 grams of sugar, and you're just going to add a spoonful at a time. So I'm just going to put a little bit in and then whisk it up a bit. You will see that the foam changes in texture and appearance, okay, as we add the sugar in. So we're just adding a small amount of sugar at a time and continuing to whisk it. We don't add the sugar at the beginning because the sugar delays the foam formation. So we add it once we have got our egg whites into the state that we want them. For the meringue topping, I am going to pipe it onto my lemon curd in the pastry case. So I've just got a disposable piping bag and I've got a jug so I can stand it in. I'm just going to fold the top of my piping bag over and then stand it in my jug, and that'll just help me to get it to transfer into it. And then just carefully spoon your meringue into your piping bag. If you don't fold it over, you'll end up getting lots of meringue at the top of your piping bag, which you'll then lose. Okay, so just rather than having to squeeze it down, fold over your bag. You can always unfold it a bit more if needs be. If you need to add in some more meringue. I'm just using a scraper out of my bowl and into my piping bag. Don't cut the end until you're ready to pipe, and then what you can do is so you can see that you've got your meringue. Leave the end until you're ready to pipe. You're just going to squeeze it down, or you can, but because there's not any space for it to go, it won't do, but just twist it round at the end for when you're ready to pipe. Once your pastry case is cooked, you are going to turn down your oven to gas mark 3 or 170, because you will finish off your lemon meringue pie just to get it to get the meringue to go golden brown on the top in a low heat. So I'm just putting my lemon curd into my pastry case, so spreading it out. And then if you don't have any piping bags, you can dollop your meringue onto the top of your lemon curd. And then make it look pretty with a fork, or as I have, we've got our piping bag with our meringue in, and I'm just going to cut off the end. I'm not using a nozzle, squeezing it from the end, so I'm just going to go round and I'm just going to squeeze and let go, squeeze and let go. So you're squeezing, letting go and pulling up. So once you've covered your lemon meringue pie with your meringue, you are just going to put it back into the oven on that lower heat until these peaks go a bit more golden. After about 5 to 10 minutes in the oven, your peaks should have gone golden because of the sugar caramelising,